to eliminate the often unseen mental health challenges faced by first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and 911 dispatchers by sharing their stories, fostering understanding, and promoting resources for support and healing. We aim to break down stigma, advocate for improved mental health services within the first responder community, and inspire hope and resilience. This is the Weight We Carry podcast.
What's going on, guys? It's Bart with the Weight We Carry podcast, and today we have Mr. Jacob Courtney, a paramedic down in Tennessee. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good, Bart. How are you?
I am well. I'm so excited to have you on. I first came across you scrolling through TikTok, and honestly, your content it definitely it resounds with a lot of other people, and you talk a lot about mental health. So I think this was a perfect matchup. I'm really excited to have you on and for you to share your story today, man. I appreciate you.
Well, I'm excited to be here, honestly, and I learned that if I didn't share my story, who else is going to share theirs? So it kind of became a thing of, well, if I can take care of myself or approach these things, maybe other people can too. And I'm a little more open about it. I don't care to be open about it. So here we are.
Absolutely. And if you could, man, if you give yourself a little bit more detailed of introduction for everyone so they know who you are.
My name is Jacob Courtney. I go by Terminal Paramedic on TikTok, Instagram, and other social medias. Like you said, I'm a paramedic out of East Tennessee. I've got to work for a variety of different services. I'm a rescue technician and a rescue instructor in some arts of extrication and driving, and I also teach CPR, ACLS, PALS, and pairs.
All good. All right, man. Let's get into the questions. All right, brother.
All right.
If you could you share some of your earliest memories and experiences growing up that helped you shape who you are today?
A lot of my younger childhood, I remember some not so great things. My biological father was extremely abusive, and the things he did to me and my mom, and it was just not a great time. But I've always had a will to help others and be there. I remember in kindergarten, we had a girl in class who she was usually in a wheelchair and couldn't get her food, stuff like that. So I would always carry her tray, make her tray. And it's just something I enjoyed doing because it just made her day. There's no other reason. It just made her smile.
And that's awesome. Growing up, my day was Mr. Rogers, and he always says, look for the helpers, and be the helpers. And I think that really did shape how I think my direction and my career choice, because I always like to help people. I always like to try to be kind to people because you never know what they're dealing with throughout their day. So it's easier to be kind than to be a jerk, for sure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you could give us, what aspect of your childhood do you think have influenced your decision to help others later in life?
Well, I grew up with mom was a cop, my biological father was a cop, and trauma on the job did him bad things. But seeing my mom stop and help other people when she wasn't working was a big thing. I remember this lady. We grew up struggling financially, but she couldn't. I mean, it was something simple, buying the groceries, and she would help out, take money out of what little we had to help her. I watched her buy a kid a Happy Meal at McDonald's once just to make her smile. So it was just the little things.
And that's what it is. It's all those little things that add up to the huge things in life. You know what I mean?
And I remember her chief. He was always really good to me. When we'd come into the station or whatever, he'd always have little snacks or something like that. And he didn't do it because he wanted to. He had to. He did it because he wanted to. He wanted to see me and my sister smile, and that makes all the difference.
Sure. It absolutely does. So, Jacob, what inspired you to get involved in public safety at such a young age? And how did that decision come about?
Well, like I said, I grew up in a cop's household, and I thought, when I grow up, I want to be a cop. That's what I wanted to be. And the older I got, I realized that's probably not the right path for me. I was way too angry in my youth, and I thought I would still want to help people, so why not join the local volunteer fire department? And I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to do something bigger than myself.
I think that's it's a noble thing for public servants. And I think a lot of the time, and I'm sure you've seen this over your time working in EMS, is a lot of people tend to forget that. They tend to forget that why they got into the profession in the first place. And I mean, that comes with the burnout of it. I found myself being one of those people probably about 5-6 years into my career. And I was just, oh, why we got to go on this call, or, those recurring calls or recurring people that have overdosed several times in the day. I'm like, that's what we're here for. And you have to take a step back and remember why you got into the profession in the first place. We're to help people.
I mean, there's a point in my career where I hated going to the same house over and over again. And that
Yeah,
was just a few years ago. I was very miserable, very burnout. And some of it's environment, some of it is not addressing my own issues in my own life and drinking. So, when as soon as you clock out of work, you immediately having a drink, that's a problem.
sure it
And
is.
uh, you wake up hating going to work. You hate getting toned out to go to places. It's just everything is a pain, annoying. Everything is awful. And I don't think that's a way to be. I mean, even now, like I'm a little worn out now because I've been working a lot for the past few months. So I'm taking some time off, doing some training and stuff. I'm not the same as it was then. Like even now, it's like, okay, we're going here. It's fine. It's our job. It's what we're paid to do. And when people apologize, "Oh, I'm sorry for calling y'all to help me out and everything else. Like, oh, it's fine, man. We're here. That's what we're here for. We work
Hmm.
12-hour shifts. I'm here from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'm here to respond to whatever comes in that time frame, whether I like it or not. And once you come to a place, I think, where you accept it and you just say, listen, this is why I'm here. I'm going to help these people, regardless of what it is, even if it's a frequent flyer, even if it's the same nursing home that's called us 10 times for the same patient this week. We're just going to go in there and do our thing and treat this patient good and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, and I found over the years, your partner can definitely dictate your shift. That's
But yeah,
that's the truth, man. Like there's partner. I mean, all kinds of different personalities that you run into. You're not going to get along with everyone, but when you're there to do the job gets done. But then you have those partners that it was like, heck yeah, I'm with that partner today. We're gonna have a good time, and it definitely it dictates your day. It dictates your day.
it does. My goal is when I work with people, whether it be my regular partner or someone else, I want to be that light. I don't want to be the darkness that tears them down or beats them down. I want to be the one that they go, hey, I want to work with this guy my partner takes off or something like that.
Yep, that's how the same way I was. I always tried to be that positive force. But I mean, we're human. We have those days where it doesn't happen.
I had one the other night. My captain was sending me out of town on transport, and that it wears us out. We do a lot of out of town transfers. And I mean, oftentimes we're going 2 times a shift each truck, and so it's exhausting. And he hit me like right at 3:30 going to Knoxville, and I was like, not happy right now, just so you know. I was so grumpy.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's just where I was working the water park during the day, working EMS at night. I did that for 3 days in a row, and you just get tired, and we're all human, so it still happens.
sure does. So Jacob, could you walk us through your first steps in public safety and from joining the local volunteer fire department into your early training experiences?
So when I was 17, a couple of my buddies had already joined the local fire department and rescue squad in a neighboring county, and I just thought it was cool. I've always thought watching vehicles go through road emergency traffic was cool, whether it be a cop car, ambulance, fire engine. So this was kind of like my way in. So I attended my meetings, filled out my application, and joined. It was my senior year in high school. It was pretty cool.
The
It
rest is
was
history, huh?
yeah, it was interesting because you're in high school still, you and two of your buddies, and we all had pagers. And at the end of the day, like if a call came out right at the end of high school. We're all getting in our vehicles, like racing to the fire department just so we can get on the truck. And I remember I had because of the cadets, we had a bright orange helmet. I pull
Can't
in,
miss you.
yeah, I pull in. I get my gear on, and I'm fumbling around. I put that bright orange helmet on. So I'm going to get in the engine. They go, "You don't have to wear the helmet in the truck, guys. It's okay."
But I want to. I'm that excited to be here.
I'm excited. But it was funny. And I
Heck yeah.
misspelled. They called me Proby, and I misspelled Proby. Funny. Oh, that was fun. And there would end up being a fourth one of us, and so four of us who grew up together and all joined the fire department stuff, and we had a good time. Like we went to fire school and everything. It was fun.
See, my experience is a lot different because in high school I was partying, doing dumb stuff, and I didn't really notice volunteer firefighters like in going from high school. I didn't get involved into EMS until I just turned 30. So showing my age now, being now almost 20 years in public safety as a whole with, EMS and dispatch, it's been quite a ride. But I got into EMS at the time where I needed that sort of direction because I could have either went this way or that way. And then it could have ended up in a whole different way for me. I always like to give credit to the service that I worked for. It was Ross Westview EMS, and Greg Porter was at the time our assistant director. He gave me that chance where I really needed it. I needed that someone to believe in what I was doing and give me that direction that I needed. So, and here we are, nearly 20 years after that, and I'm very proud of where I made it in my career. I was a high school dropout. I got my GED, so I think I've done very well. And I have a great family and all these people that I've met over the years as mentors and now friends. And it's I wouldn't change it for the world, man.
Yeah, I have to say, I honestly needed the fire department. I needed that. I needed that brotherhood. I needed that structure in my life.
Yep.
And so I didn't really have like my biological father wasn't really around, and he was abusive. So I needed something to invest in, and that was that. That really helped.
Heck yeah. So, Jacob, looking back, is there a particular call or incident early in your career that stands out as especially traumatic or challenging? And what happened and what impressions did that leave on you?
So as far as being early in my career, I worked my first fatality, and I was still a kid, and I just was a little upset about it. I mean, you're 17, 18-year-old kid. You're gonna not really know how to deal with that. That's not something that, hey, you in school, we're gonna teach you how to deal with death and dismemberment and all these different injuries and everything else that happen in the world. What 17, 18-year-old kid's gonna even think that? Even think how to deal with that? So I was a little upset, and I had an officer, one of my lieutenants, look at me and say, "Well, if you can't handle it, you need to just turn your shit in." And that was it. Uh, so that lesson stuck with me for a long time. Was, oh well, we can't talk about it. We can't be upset about it. We can't express our emotions or be angry or anything like that. So we just have to bottle this up and chuck it away because we just don't address these problems. And of course, later in my career, I found out like we can't do that. That creates a very, very dangerous and toxic person within yourself, and it shows. It shows because everything gets. It's like you put one more thing in the box. You're going to put one more thing in the box, one more thing in the box, one more thing in the box, and the next thing you know, you're trying to stuff 100 yards worth of stuff in a 2-foot box, and it's just not a good plan.
Yeah. We hear that analogy all the time, and we like to refer to it again. I think of those traumas as a dam, and all the rocks and the logs coming through that water, smacking up against the cement. It'll slowly break away at it. And if you don't take care of those issues as they come up, it's just going to build up, and eventually that one little pebble can break that dam, and everything's going to be is what's going to happen. So we're now figuring out that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out for help because I know it all too well. Is I needed to reach out, and I never did because I was too hard-headed and stuck in that way of suck it up. You'll be all right. You're tough. You can deal with it. And we now know we can't. It's going to eventually, it's going to boil over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's something that they pushed for years. I mean, this is back in like 2005, 2006, and it was still a lot of the old guard. And I'm thankful for the old guard because I kind of feel like they had some things right too.
Sure. Sure they
Definitely,
do.
they were very rooted in tradition, very rooted in being volunteers and getting up and walking away from a hot meal and responding and going and doing. And that's something that we see less and less of today because it's the financial incentive on the volunteer side, and even on the pay side, it becomes a like financially driven, and it loses the whole why are we here?
Sure does. Sure does. You see the volunteering has gone way down. Firehouse is really reaching out for new members to join, and you just don't see it anymore.
So, but that's one thing I'll say they got wrong was the ignore it, don't deal with it kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we see it now. We're losing people left and right because of that. So how did critical incidents such as the mass casualty event that you experienced affect you immediately and shape your approach to your work in public safety?
Uh, so what you're referring to is the mass casualty incident I worked a couple of years ago, and I'll be honest, it affected me greatly. I made my situation worse by after the incident coming home, showering, getting another uniform on, and going to work in another service, and then having a 2-year-old involved in a critical incident the next day after having a 2-year-old literally take their last breath in my arms, uh, in the back of this van on its roof on the side of the interstate. So I did myself no favors. I actually put myself in a panic attack in the middle of the children's hospital, and I didn't handle it well. When we got back, by the time my partner helped me get calmed down, which I felt bad for him, trying to deal with me, I was a mess. And we got back to the station. I was like, I'm going home. Shift captain there was like, you have like 3 hours left in your shift. I said, I don't care. I'm going home. I'm done. Like, are you quitting? I was like, I'm done. I just grabbed my stuff, clocked out, and left. I didn't even think twice about it. And I didn't know if I was ever going to go back. And I'll be absolutely honest. I was terrified to get back on an ambulance there for a minute. I came home to my kids, and kids, they didn't understand and they didn't mean it, but they actually pushed me into a panic attack by overwhelming me, by pushing me past my ability to manage things. And at that point, no one really realized how bad it was. My family didn't. So there was no conversations being had at that point. People just didn't realize how bad shape I was in. And they didn't have school Monday, and I was home with them all day Monday, and it was just spiraling out of control. I locked myself in my room. I have 4 kids, and so it was just me and them, and I locked myself in my room and just kind of cried it out until I could get a grip on myself. And my youngest one, she was 2 at the time, and begging to come be with her daddy, and I couldn't even hug my daughter. I couldn't even touch her because it just upset me so much because I just had another 2-year-old. It's hard whenever you work kids your kids' age and you go through something like that, and then you come home and you try to be what they need you to be, and you can't. It really pushes. It's kind of like a cascading effect. It just keeps pushing you down the line.
Sure does.
And my director from one of my jobs where I was involved with that, he said, "Hey, they're doing a debriefing, and I want you to go, you and the other guy." And so, we went. And on the way up there, so on the ride back after that incident, we didn't even talk. We both said a sentence, and it was very awkward. I'm covered, my arms, my chest, my legs are covered in mud and blood and everything else. So after the incident, we both were like, yeah, and that was kind of it. It was the most silent ride for 3 hours in my life I've ever had. We literally didn't do anything. We just kind of sat there and just the radio wasn't playing. It was just the roar of the diesel motor. That was it. So when we was on our way back up there Tuesday, this happened Saturday. So on Tuesday, we were talking a little bit about it, and he said, well, I ain't saying nothing. He goes, I don't want people to think I'm weak or I'm soft. And I was like, what's it going to hurt? He said, if I don't say something, man, I can't get back on the truck. I can't finish what I started. and I need to finish what I started. I said, I worked too hard to get here. I can't. I just can't. And in the middle of all this, I'm in my later half of medic school on top of it. And so we're doing clinicals at children's hospitals. And my instructor goes, yeah, I'm pulling you from all your children's clinicals right now. So it was just a huge pile to be dumped on at once because you got all these clinical hours you have to do in medic school. I'm working as much as I can to provide for my kids, and I can't even do my job. I can't do my clinicals. I don't want to go to class. It was just not a good place to be.
Yeah. But you stuck it out.
I did. I got some strong encouragement and I pushed through it. Going to the debriefing, and I've been through 3 previous debriefings, and they were kind of just checks in the box. They weren't a real down hard. I don't know. It was just different. Maybe I was different. I don't know. But I went into this one and they started talking about the dispatchers, started their information. So we're in a room full, and this is how extensive the call is. There was like 50 to 60 people in this room in Putnam County, and everyone from dispatchers to every person on scene, every person that was involved with it. And that's a lot of people to go through an incident like this. And that wasn't even everybody. There was still a lot of people that didn't come. So you got to think of how big of an impact that affects. You know, you're involved in an incident that's that big, that involves that many responders, that many people. And so they go through, and then after the dispatchers, they go, well, you and your partner were there. And so we started talking, and I just said, I even started out like this. I said, I'm just going to let it out, because if I don't, I can't get back on the truck. And I said, y'all don't know me from Adam, so I don't care if you judge me.
Yeah.
And I just started talking about it, and I broke down and cried even a little bit because it was so still fresh, still an open one. And I don't know if I started the catalyst or what the deal was, or if because the service had been through other serious incidents in the past. But it's like after I opened up and was emotional and it became vulnerable in front of everybody, other people started doing the same. And this one guy's his very first. He just got hired at the fire department and full time, and it's his very first EMT clinic. Like, this is this guy's first EMT clinical. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, even for the grizzled veterans, those of us who've been and the salty ones who've been there in public safety for a while, have seen some stuff. And then here's this guy on his first day of EMT clinicals, and this is his first call.
Man,
That's insane.
that's a hell of a introduction to public safety right there.
It is. And, and he was emotional, and he cried, and it just, everybody opened up. It was a beautiful thing. And I'm very grateful for that, because if that had not happened, if the chief of Putnam EMS hadn't invited us back, and my director hadn't encouraged me to go, my instructor, I don't know if I'd be here today, let alone as a paramedic.
So, can you explain over your career, when did you first really start noticing the signs that you're experiencing went well beyond the usual stress of the job?
When I was supremely depressed and buying almost a bottle of whiskey every day or every other day, especially days I was off, which I've always worked a lot. I've always had that in me to work a lot. Um, when you're raising 4 kids, again, you tend to do that. But during the day, when I was on nights, I would just drink. If I wouldn't work, I would drink. Mm. I'm not against anyone having a drink. I'm not. I mean, even now, I'll have a drink here or there, but it's usually at a social gathering. I'm not sitting at home in a dark room drinking a bottle of whiskey till I don't feel anything anymore. And I didn't even address my my issues then. It took me getting fired from my job for various issues, emotional outbursts, anger, disrespecting my leadership. I mean, even my partner was like, "Man, you've got a problem." And we got together when he was a fifth sergeant to ship lieutenant, and now he's ship captain. And he was like, "Man, you've got a serious problem. You need to get a grip on it." And I just didn't listen to nobody. And the office was going through the whole thing. And I work for the service full time now, so I was able to come back. And even the office was like, "Man, there's counseling out there. There's things that we can do to help you." And I was just like, "I'm fine. I don't know why you're talking to me." I could not see the signs, but everybody else could. And when I got fired, I was angry. I was very angry and bitter for a while. And then this is ironic. So this kind of goes back to a whole timeline of how life can get you down and be really bad. So my drinking is out of control. I'm in medic school. I get fired from my job in January. Barely a month, 5 weeks later, I worked at, well, 4 weeks later, I worked the worst call of my career, the mass casualty incident. And it just like keeps compounding. So at that point, I didn't drink. I actually didn't come home and drown my sorrows. I was scared to. I was scared. I was scared that if I crawled into the bottle, I would never get back out that time. And ever since then, I've just not drank as much. Don't have a desire to. Like even when I go out, like if I've got a bunch of friends who will have a beer, it's all I can do to finish one beer.
It's a good thing, man. I don't
I'm
drink at
pretty,
all. I don't drink
I,
at all.
and I don't knock people that do drink or don't drink or whatever else. I don't have an issue with it. Uh, I just know for me, my desire to drink all the time is not there. I very like me and my friends, if we're doing like we'll go out on a boat and stuff, we'll have a couple light mixed drinks or something like that, but it's nothing like it used to be. I'm not down and spending $400, $500 a month in whiskey or anything.
Yeah. Can you describe how your symptoms, perhaps including your PTSD, how those manifested in your day-to-day life during and after any critical incidences that you're involved in?
Throughout my career, I've had a really bad luck with 2-year-olds. It's always a 2-year-old for me or kid. And I say this because we was talking about it the other night at work, and it was like, I don't know. It's like, you are a pediatric crap magnet. I thought, you get all the bad feeds calls. I said, yay me,
Yeah,
because they're the hardest. Of all the peds calls, most of the time, kind of upset for a day or two, and you know, I think we all kind of ask why. Well, why does this happen? And we're agitated because we have to go through the 5 stages of grief as well. Like we have to go through that. And I started noticing, I guess even before the mass casualty incident, I was very negative. I was being negative, and of course the drinking and everything else. Uh, so I didn't really catch a lot of my symptoms that were taking place, and I think that's just because I chose to be ignorant to them. I'll be honest. I think that's an easy way to be. Self-medicating is a sign and symptom, but we kind of refuse to see it sometimes. That was
sure
my
do.
biggest one. Since the mass casualty incident, I've had a couple flashbacks. I've had several more kids and 2-year-olds, especially. Lucky me. And I do okay for the most part, but there was one call where I had a flashback, and everyone could tell there was something wrong. Even the guy I was working with, the people on the radio, they just like, your voice changed. There was something different. And as I was going through the call, I'm seeing my patient in front of me, but I'm also seeing what took place on the side of I-40. I'm back in the van. Like I am back there. I'm seeing all these kids and specifically that 2-year-old, and I'm literally like right back there. And I'm trying to do the call that I have now because this is a critical call and I've got to get this kid took care of. And I'm really struggling to get through it. And my old partner, who's been promoted again, he's in training in the office as a captain, and he teaches our in-house EMT program. He responded out there in his command vehicle and was able to get me on track. And I needed that because I was really struggling.
Yeah,
Uh, that is hard. Having a flashback is probably one of the hardest things because you're trying to work through your current and previous incident at the same. And I never understood for a long time what a real flashback was. Like, people say, well, I was not there. I was seeing something completely different. And I've always drove around where I live at in Morristown and like, I hate being here. I've worked so many calls here. I've worked this wreck here, whatever. But I've never had a full blown flashback until that moment. And that was hard. I don't even know how to even deal with it all the way because I still try to figure out like why did I have a flashback? And ultimately it was because of the way this patient was laying on my stretcher, the same position. And it just threw me back.
I think people realizing now that PTSD and now that PTSI is an actual thing, it's an actual brain injury. It's an injury. So, uh, you know, you have those triggers and you have to be able to learn how to work through it. And I'll definitely pass along some of the resources that we've gained over our time. If you're interested, they're free to you as a first responder. But whenever we close up here, I'll definitely pass those along to you because I think it could definitely it'd be it would help a lot. It helped me out. So, and I was a little hesitant going into doing it, but the therapy that I went through is fantastic and it works.
I subscribe to Stoic philosophy, which Stoicism is founded by Zeno Citra, and of course, one of the most famous Stoics is Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of the Roman
Hmm.
Empire, and his book of Meditations. I believe we have to be honest. If we're struggling with our PTSD or if we're struggling with our mental health or anything with this job, I believe we have to be honest and take ownership of it. We have to own it and say, "Hey, I'm not okay. I'm not doing well. I need this shift off." And the problem I've seen with that is some places are like, "Well, you're scheduled to work. You have to work." And some places I've seen roll out the red carpet and say, "Go home." So it's all, I guess, relative to where you work. And it's hard to get some leadership behind taking care of their people when they're having mental health struggles because a lot of the leadership is old school. A lot of leadership has not been on a truck in 20 years. So they're making decisions and doing things that they're not exposed to anymore, that they're, you know, sitting in an office and air conditioning and driving their command vehicle home and attending meetings and trainings and conferences. They're not, most of them don't get out here on the streets. They're not running these calls. They're not in the middle of the thick of it. And so when you have bosses like that, they don't tend to understand. And I think that we're seeing more and more trauma as time goes on. I always link it to society. Society is not, in my opinion, the best place. Drugs are rampant, mental health problems are rampant, and it makes it hard when we're kind of put into a situation where we have to learn how to handle all this all at once, and we have no training on how to handle 99% of this. I mean, on an ambulance, how many times have you been sent out for a call where someone's having a mental health emergency and the cops are there, but they're like, it's not our problem, it's a medical problem, so it's yours.
Yeah.
And then you have incidents like what happened with Graham Hoffman, and those incidents happen too. I mean, how many times are we assaulted and attacked in an ambulance or by patients or their families, verbally, physically? I mean, I've had to fight for my life in the back of a truck before. So all these things build up and they wear us down. And so I think it is very good that we all have some sort of therapist or an outlet to talk to because these incidents can wear us down mentally, physically, emotionally. And
Beat you up.
I don't think we realize how much we invest into our jobs. I mean, how many people in EMS do you know or public safety hang out with only public safety people?
Yeah.
Uh, I try to do things with people outside of public safety every so often because I need that. I need people who are not going to talk shop. I need people who are not going to consistently bring up this or that. Like we need that mental break.
You absolutely do. You can't, and we've discussed this previously with other guests. Does your job actually define you? Does your career define who you are?
I would
And
say in public safety, it does because it becomes
absolutely.
such a huge part of your personality of what you do. When you work 24-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts, like my regular schedule right now is I work 4 days one week, 3 days the next, and then I work my part-time job, and I have two other part-time jobs, and they're all oriented around being a paramedic, whether it be working in a water park or for a medical center doing event medicine or on a truck. So we all get sucked into, I call it the same vicious cycle. It really is a vicious cycle. Like some of my best friends are working EMS or they're EMS and volunteer fire or EMS and rescue, and we all cling together. It's like a clan. It's like
Yeah.
this. We have the public safety clan. This is what we do, and we stick together, and that's good. But like I said at the point, it really becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah. There's some points that you do. You need the break from it. You can't live at 24/7, 365. You have to have a break away from public safety.
Well, you do. And when we see people, I mean, how many times do you see someone having something happen to them in public, and you know they need help, so you have that urge within you to say, I need to help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my kids are all the time like, if we're somewhere and something's going on, my dad, shut up, I'm nothing. No, no, no. I mean, ultimately, if somebody really needed help, absolutely. But at the same time, I have to consider my kids too and make sure they're in a safe, that we're safe, because as a dad, that's my top priority.
So can you give us some of your personal outlets, like your journaling or music or any creative projects, for example, making your TikTok videos for Terminal Paramedic? How's that played a role in your path to recovery?
So I love TikTok because we're allowed to express ourselves through different audios and visuals and then pictures and videos and sound clips and bites. I think it is great. And I think that one of the ultimate freedoms we have in this world is the ability to express ourselves. So if we can express ourselves openly and just be who we are, we tend to feel better about
Sure
it.
do.
I got to a place where I was like, and some people made fun of me for making TikToks or this, that, the other. And I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm not doing it for you. This is for me. This is my fun. You can laugh at me. If it's going to make you feel better, laugh at me. I'm okay with that. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to address what I feel like I need to address. And if you go back into some of my older TikToks, you can see where I am in not as such a great place. It shows. It shows mentally that I am not well.
Struggle.
And it's struggling. And as time has went on, you can see the change, and that makes a difference. Being more comfortable with saying, "Hey, this is what's going on," or like when I shared not too long ago, I had a flashback on a call. Let's talk about it. And I don't do the education stuff. I don't feel like I'm that guy, because there are so many others who are really good at education. Jimmy Apple, EMS Avenger, Ashlyn Odell, Shade Tree, which is a great car, Sweargen, the Angry Medic, Roy Johnson, who's fighting cancer right now. God rest his soul. He's really struggling, and that Make Ready Medics. And you got Jeff Murphy, you know.
Yeah. Whole bunch of people on there.
Yeah,
For sure.
you got all these brilliant educators who I can't hold a candle in the wind to. But what I can do is talk about my experience and share my struggles, but also I like to showcase the job too. And I just like to do that in my videos. I love night shift, I call it the dark nights and red lights, because there's something about it. And even if I just share a video and put words with it to encourage somebody, then I think I'm doing what I need to do. Like that, this is what I do, and this is where I'm going to be.
I think your followers, it shows. It shows how important that is to the people that follow you. You have quite a following over on TikTok, and that your numbers show, and I think I saw it. That's what drew me to it, because we really do. Like, I never thought about reaching out and talking to people, especially on social media, and making myself that vulnerable, and then we're like, here we are. This is what we're going to do. But it shows how important and how much the call for it is by your followers. So we know that mental health is a real thing in our profession, and that there's people that are holding stuff inside because they're scared to reach out. But outlets like your TikTok and what you do over there, it shows people liking your videos, and obviously the followership on it. So it's there, and I think we're doing a good thing.
I'm very grateful for the following I have. I don't feel worthy of anything. I don't think I'm anything special. The joke of terminal paramedic comes from when I was in the Marines. I was a terminal Lance Corporal. So I'm a terminal paramedic. I don't believe I'll ever hold rank, and that's for a variety of reasons. I kind of walk my own path, and it gets me in trouble. I make my mistakes, and at the end of the day, when I'm in the office, I just own them. I sign my write-up, and I do my thing.
Yep. It's the way to be, man. It's the way to be.
Fine. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. I don't need a rank or a title to lead other people or to encourage other people. I just need to be me, my authentic self, and to remain positive and to continue to encourage people. And yes, I have days and weeks, and it's been rough over the past 2 months. I've had a rough time, and I can be honest about it. I've been really down and just kind of like tired. And I'm a tired that sleep is not fixing right now. And, coming on this podcast, I was a little worried. I was like, I'm really tired. I'm kind of down. I feel like I'm going to have to be this positive person. And I don't necessarily feel like being positive. I'm just going to be true and be honest.
It's all we're asking, man. Just be honest.
Definitely some anxiety before I came on. But at the end of the day, I stick to being myself, listening to music, journaling, and following the Stoic philosophy, Stoic principles. And one of the big ones is just accept fate, embrace it as it comes. And I always go back to that and remind myself that I control nothing but myself, my words, my perceptions, my thoughts, my emotions, my actions. And as long as I understand that, the rest will be what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Don't let anything control you. Don't let it beat you down. And like right now with some stuff going on, I'm just at a point where I'm going to sit and wait. I'm going to be patient because that's what needs to take place. There's no route I can take right now to just instantly fix this problem or that problem or this problem. I just need to be patient and allow the problem to present the opening for me to take. And that's hard. And I think as a first responder, that is hard for us to do because when we see a problem, we want to fix a problem.
Yep, we're fixers.
And so taking that moment and learning patience and just taking a moment and go, I'm going to build my campsite right here and we're going to chill until the path presents itself. And that's a very hard thing for me to do. It's very humbling.
But it's a good way. It's a good way to approach it, though, man. It really is. That's when you can settle down and be still for a little bit, just to see how it plays out. That's what you have to do sometimes, and it's a hard role to make yourself follow, for sure.
Absolutely agree. And my mom asked me, she goes, "Why did you choose the Stoic path?" And I said, "Because it makes sense to me. I think that it's ideologically where people should be, and that's my opinion. I mean, if Marcus Aurelius can lead an empire for almost 20 years, and go through some pretty hard times during that time frame, and not succumb to 1,000 different things that came towards him, then that's probably a pretty strong philosophy. Not including the time he was second in command of the empire for, I think, 20 years before that. So there's a lot of reasoning behind it, and it makes sense to me."
So if you could, what impact do you hope your story and advocacy will have on the culture of public safety and on future generations entering the field?
Learn from my mistakes, learn from my shortcomings, learn from my failings. That's the biggest thing I want. I want people to be better than me. I want the next generation of EMTs, AMTs, paramedics, rescue technicians, firefighters, anybody, be better than me. Make a bigger impact than I can. Because I personally don't feel like I make a big impact. I may make a bigger impact than I realize, but I don't feel like I make a big impact. And I'm okay with it. What I want, though, is if I can make one person feel better about themselves or their job or help push them in the right direction, then that's a mission success. I was working with a AMT the other day who was stressed out and nervous because someone said that I didn't want to work with her, and I was like, I've never said that. I enjoy working with you. I worked with her first day off of FTO, and she threw me in the back, and I said, "Hey, I'm not a flight medic. Appreciate it though." And that was the only thing I said. It wasn't even mean. It was like, "Hey, so you know."
Mm-hmm.
It was her first time running Mercy traffic up front by herself, and you got to think that's an adrenaline dump. That's an adrenaline rush. You are new, and you're out here driving this 12,000-pound ambulance emergency traffic. I mean, you're gonna be through the roof, And so she was nervous, and we talked about it. She's like, "Well, I don't like confrontation." And I said, "You want to be a paramedic one day?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "You're gonna have to learn to stand up and make a difference sometimes and fight for someone, your patient. And you're going to make some people angry when you do that, but you're gonna have to learn to do that. And I said, you can. You're brilliant. You are really good at what you do. And even during her clinical, she said, she struggled with IVs because of some of her preceptors were very judgmental on her. And so the other night we were working together, and I got her to use an 18 gauge, and she never used one. And she felt really good about it because I was showing her different techniques on IVs. And we had some sick patients, but not super critical. We only had one critical, but it was a good opportunity for her to learn and become more comfortable doing the job. And at the end of the shift, she said, "Thank you. This made the world of difference to me." And that right there is worth more than any achievement, accolade, award, or anything can be given. I kind of have a rule. I don't want a wall full of awards and prestige or certificates. I want people to say, "He was there. He helped me." That's it.
Yep. That's it. That's the lineage that you leave is passed along. And when we were talking to Holly Sherman, she's like, this profession gatekeeps. And people like yourself, you pass along that knowledge. You want, and again, man, that's a true trait of a leader. Doesn't matter what color your shirt is, but wanting those people to be better than you are. And that's what we need to pass that along. You pass along that knowledge, you pass along those instances that you've learned and made mistakes on. And if you can pass that along to the new generation, it's setting everyone up for success and to make this profession thrive and these new providers thrive in what they're doing to make better providers, man. That's what it's about.
It is, and we're in a time where and I think you've seen it too, where we have less people in this field, less coming into this field.
Yeah.
So the ones that are here, we need to build them and make sure that they're going to be here for when we're gone. And the gatekeeping and the saying of things, and I was the world's worst. I used to be this guy. I was this guy that said, "You don't deserve to be here," or
Yeah.
I'm going to make you break you type person. And I was nobody. So who am I to even think that? And along with some others, and of course, going through experiences and everything else, and being humbled and being humiliated and being fired, and like I'm just grateful when I came back to work at this job that I'm at now, the place that fired me. On the director, I looked at him point blank in his office, and I said, "The best thing you ever did was fire me. You took someone who was so angry and bitter, and forced them to face themselves and become accountable for their actions." And from that point to where I am now, it's like a completely different person. It's so funny because I can feel my old self at times when something happens, what I would say or how I would react to that. And I see who I am now, and I'm going, "Well, that's interesting."
That's growth, man.
Yeah,
That's growth.
it's a different place. So I've been that guy, and I never want to be that guy again that says you don't deserve to be here. Now I say, what can we help you with so that you can stay here longer?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely does.
And losing that "you don't deserve to be here" to "we're lucky to have you" mentality is a big difference.
And it's a little bit of imposter syndrome too. I have it myself. Like I look at where I'm at in my life now, and I'm like, you look around and you look at the things and the accomplishments that you've done, and you step back and you're like, how did I even get here? How did this even happen? And because you worked at it, you put the work in. And I think that's the most important thing. You said it yourself. You said holding yourself accountable for your actions and everything you do. That's what creates a better version of yourself.
Growing up, I hated myself a lot. And when you hate yourself, you reflect that on other people. And even in the mirror, up until a few years ago, I'd look in the mirror and hate the person who I was. Now, when I look in the mirror, I was like, I don't hate who I am. I'm a little fat. I probably need to work on that. But outside of that, I don't hate who I am. And studying Stoicism, I've come to a place where suffering builds character, it builds strength. And the more we suffer, the more we learn. You can't ask for an easy life and expect to be knowledgeable. You have to suffer. You have to endure. That's the only way we truly learn. Because when you think about it, what lessons have you learned, like the easy way, I guess, or without suffering? They probably didn't stick to you as well as the one where you suffered and you were punished for it, whether it be, I mean, anything can be punishment, any amount of suffering, and
Hmm.
that lesson sticks with you. You remember it and you hold on to it and you go, okay,
We're not doing that again.
yeah. And then so when you're presented with the same situation, hopefully through the pain and suffering you endured, you become wiser and you're able to handle it better. It's not years that make somebody intelligent or wise. It's experience and suffering.
Very true.
I know that's weird, and I know people say, why do you endure suffering? Why are you big on that? Because it builds character. It makes you who you are.
Yeah, I learned that a lot of the Thich Nhat Hanh books I read, and it's he's a Buddhist monk, so life is suffering. Life is suffering, and if you hold on to things and hold those things against yourself, you're going to suffer. So you have to just live in the present moment. Don't live in the future. Don't live in the past. It's living in this present moment right now. And, when you're with those patients, taking care of those patients, you're in the moment. And if you can put your best foot forward and give all your learning and experience, those patients are going to have better outcomes.
Absolutely. And so Buddhism and Stoicism kind of have a lot of key concepts. But one of the big differences in Stoicism is you're never a sage. You're never the master. You're always what they call a prakopton, a learner. And I love that mentality because in our field of study, we should be prakoptons. We should be eternal learners, always seeking new information and always willing to be receptive to new information. Perfect example of this is look at how much medicine has changed in the past 20 years, past 10 years, past 5 years. Things that we used to do, we don't do, and things that we used to do, we don't do. Now we're like, oh, the science actually proved that was what we're supposed to do. So we're doing it again. Perfect example of this is look at backboards.
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago, they were the holy grail of all traumas, and now we're at a place of, why are you using that backboard? Why are you doing that? So it's a completely ever evolving field, and that's why I think that the Stoic mentality, the study of it, along with this career choice, has really left me receptive and open to continue learning and becoming better.
Awesome, man. We're going to be closing up here pretty soon here, Jacob, but we have a few more things I want to get to with your TikTok and a few other things. So give us a little bit more about your TikTok presence, how you created content and to help others. Let me rephrase it. How creating content has helped you process and share your journey, and how it serves as a creative outlet for mental health advocacy.
So whenever I decided to share my story, I felt like that was a big step. I felt like that it needed to happen because it started with little things right after the incident, right after the mass casualty, because that's probably the biggest pinnacle. Like I've had other traumas, but that's the big one. That's the one that really altered my brain chemistry and really changed who I was as a person. It set me on a new path. I always say it's the day I died, but it's the day I was reborn. And for me, it was the big one. But you have people out there where it's a death by 1,000 cuts too, which is worse. I think they're both just as bad. But it encouraged me to just share my story because I know if I'm suffering, and I sat in this room full of people, and I watched some people suffer, and I watched some people open up, and I said, this needs to be told. This needs to be shared. This moment, and it started with little, like I said, it started with little things, and went from there, and it turned into a whole 10-part series where I almost break down and cry, telling my story, and the outreach from that truly was mind-boggling. I was very, very humbled. I didn't realize it would reach out to as many people as it did, and the messages I've received. And I've had people say, "Hey, man, I need help. Can you help me?" And I recently told one, I was like, "Man, I'm not the person who can help you. You can learn from my story, but you need to reach out to professionals. They are the ones that can help."
But it starts with that. It starts with what you did. It starts with that, showing your transparency and letting other people know that there's people suffering and you're not alone in it.
I think that's the biggest thing is just being open and honest, being accountable, and sharing any struggle I have or story. I think it's important. It may not be to every individual person. But like I said, if it reaches one person, they go, well, they're willing to share, I can share. They're willing to get help, I can get help.
It's all worth it, man. That's what we said when we started this podcast, my wife and I. If we can reach one person, if they were suffering, just for them to look for themselves to maybe find that help, it was absolutely worth everything that we're doing here.
It helps me because I'm able to freely express myself. That's what it really boils down to. Good, bad, or indifferent is sometimes when I post something and I'm leaving encouraging words, sometimes those are the words I need to hear.
Same way.
Sometimes it's my struggle.
It's for you.
Yeah, it's for me, and it helps others on the way, and that's great. And
Heck yeah.
I posted one where it's like it's always this, always this, always this, because that's how I felt. I felt like I'm always needing to do something, and sometimes I have to take a break from even making TikToks or whatever because it's just if I feel obligated to it, I feel overwhelmed. So sometimes, I have to take a break, or I take a week where I don't do nothing, and then I feel inspired to do a whole bunch of stuff. So,
Heck yeah. Good for you. So, for others interested in using social media to share their experiences, what advice would you have on how to start or continue that journey?
That's a good question. Be honest. That is the biggest thing. Is be honest. Feel you're going to be nervous. You're going to be petrified even to even make a Facebook post that says I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Just recently, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, I took and said, my name is Jacob Courtney and I have PTSD. And I shared a little snippet about it and how I mitigate and deal with it. And at the end, I say, I am Jacob Courtney. I am so much more. I am a father, a brother, a son, a paramedic. And if I can live with this, you can too. I think that's a part of it. I think that we need to acknowledge it and just come to a place where you're not afraid.
What some awesome encouraging words there, man, for real.
Frank Herbert's Dune, the Bene Gesserit prayer or whatever it is, when he says fear is the mind killer. That has always been a huge inspiration because I love that book. First of all, it's an amazing book series, but I've always loved what it says. Let me pull it up here because I think it's very very important. And it says I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. I've always loved that. He was really on something when he wrote that. And, that's, we have to face our fears and we have to be willing to say, okay. So if you're willing to, everybody's popping out. If you're willing to start this journey, you're gonna embrace it, and it's gonna take you some weird places, some wild places. You're going to see parts of yourself that you didn't even know were there. Learning to be vulnerable with people is a very hard and difficult thing. It's probably one of the hardest things for me to do is I'm moderately, like I said, I'm open, but I always keep myself to a certain point. Like I'm gonna let you see this much, but this is the inner part, and we're gonna keep that for only people we trust. And when you start opening the door to that section of you and exposing how vulnerable you are, that is probably the hardest thing in the world. And I still struggle with it. I struggle with it more than anything else, I think.
Really. And for me, it's always after my medical event and being in the hospital and everything, everything came to a head, my PTSD that I was already diagnosed with, and then the depression. But the conversations I have with people, even when we have new people that would come into work and they'd be a partner of mine and never worked with them before, and just making that small talk, I don't want small talk. I've always been that one. I'm like, let's dig deep. Let's get way below that surface. Let's be weird. I'm okay with it. And to this day, that's how I'd like to be. I'd like to sit down and have a good conversation with someone and just, here you go. This is everything about me. I don't care if I sound odd or whatever. This is what you're getting, and it's worth it to me because you may never ever interact with that person again, but you may have just interacted with the person that needed that. They needed that someone to be open, be like, huh, that dude's pretty he's pretty deep. So we can be a little bit more open with people.
I like to, I like for people to have a good time on shift. Sometimes I pull out my big personality and be goofy and funny and say random things. And I want everybody to laugh and have a good time because there's a lots of times we don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And letting out good belly laughs and things like that is so needed. So I try to be, I've always said I like to be the court jester, the joke. Even if they're laughing at me and not with me, I'm okay with
Yeah. So Jacob, here's the last one for you, brother. You ready?
it. I'm ready.
If you can share one last message or key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to say you need help. That's the simplest thing of don't be
Simple as
afraid
that.
to say, don't be afraid to say you need help. It's scary. It's hard. You're going to have to face some, the fact there's an audio on TikTok that says it. The easiest way to face your demons is to turn around and face them. And that's not easy. It's because it's going to break every fiber of your being. It will. I've been there. You'll, it'll just completely destroy you. But what it leaves in its place, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Like, yeah. I think we're going to leave with that, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for
Guys,
having
if
me.
you, oh, dude, I was excited for you to be on when you messaged me last night. I'm like, I need your phone number, man. We need the phone number so I can send you the link to get you on here.
No, that first episode when you two shared your story and everything you went through, that's rough. I couldn't imagine. And to be here on the other side and you still taking your path, encouraging people and everything, a lot of respect for that. And I'm like I said, I'm nobody, but I'm very humbled to be a part of this in any shape, form, or fashion.
You're definitely not a nobody, man. You're making more of a difference than you'll ever imagine that you make. Seriously. So definitely, I want you to keep that positivity within yourself. You're definitely a somebody.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, brother. Guys, if you would like to be on the show, just like Jacob here, please reach out to us. We'll find you on TikTok or Instagram or something.
I
Hit us
will.
up at twwcpodcast@proton.me. Jacob, the terminal paramedic. Thank you, brother. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Have a good rest of the day, homie.
You too.
All right. Stay with me for a minute.